Welcome to South Charlotte Sports Report Live on a Friday morning. I am so excited to have a very special guest with me. Couldn't talk to a more popular guy right now, Senator Todd Johnson from Union County. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Tripp. Thanks for having me.
No, it's an honor to have you. Let's get right to it. Your name has popped up a lot here recently as one of the key senators to jump in behind what I call an organic movement that Megan O'Connell, myself, a bunch of others got behind and created a petition to allow more folks to see their kids play sports, not just high school, but to see their kids play outdoor sports and get around this 100-person restriction that has really put a lot of harm and stress on families and children. And tell me about the bill that you've introduced and why you've done it.
Well, and hopefully we'll have an opportunity to talk about both bills because they are different bills and address different things.
Sure.
But my son played his last varsity basketball game last night. And that was at home game that I'm going to be able to see. And having only been able to see just a couple of games, and you sit in these stadiums or in these gymnasiums, and there was only a handful of people. I mean, you can literally hear everything that the players are saying because there's no fans there. There's no handful of fans. There's no energy in the building. And so having endured that and seeing the impact that it had on my kids, middle school basketball and high school basketball, seeing the effect that it had on them. And not just that, our community, because I remember last year basketball season, I looked forward to Tuesday nights and Friday nights. Because there would be the whole community, everybody would come. We'd buy them. They were bad, but they were still edible. Little hamburgers, and we'd sit over there and we'd talk, and then we'd go and watch the game. And we'd come out, and everybody would be talking, excited. Whether you win or lose, didn't really matter. It was the excitement around it, and that's been stolen. And yes, it's about the students, but it's also about the parents. It's also about the community members. Something I like to always bring up, and I didn't mention it to you before the show, but I graduated from Anson Senior High School. I haven't lived in Union County my entire life. I've lived here over half my life, but I went to high school in Anson County. And I remember every Friday night that we had a home game, there was a gentleman in a wheelchair, and we called him Lightning. I don't know his real name, but his name was Lightning. He was an elderly gentleman. He was at every single game. He didn't have a kid on the field. He didn't know didn't have any family that was playing. He loved his community. And he loved supporting that team, and he never missed a game until the day he died.
And I think he'd gone in the country has a lightning. Has a lightning. That's right. And I think he went to every game for 60-something years. And so it's not just the parents, it's just the community. And and what's been done has been stolen from our community. Our kids have literally been it's not just physical either. It's socially, mentally, emotionally. All these things have been taken from our kids. And it's nice to play in front of your parents, but you really want to play in front of your peers and wear your school colors and go out there and perform and have your peers cheering you on in your community. The guy that runs the convenience store that you stop at on the way to school every day, he or she's going to come to the game and cheer you on. And then the next day, hey, man, you tore it up last night. You did a great job. And all that's been taken away from them. And you got to remember also, Tripp, my son, God bless him, and he works real hard. There's a very, very high probability he's not going to D1 sports in college. He's not going to be playing at that. But at the same time, you got seniors that aren't going to go. This is it for them. This is the last hurrah, and they've played sports their whole life, and this is the last season. And so they're not going to be able to have their fans there and cheer them on. It's very unfortunate, and I think it does lasting damage for years. And I'm sorry to talk so much, Tripp, but I'm very passionate about this. Oh. It's something that has frustrated me since day one of the executive orders is the fact that the term healthy has been defined as the absence of COVID. Nothing could be further from the truth. True. Healthy is there's a lot much more that goes into a person's health than just the absence of COVID, the social, the mental, just the interacting with other people. And we can do it right. People can be healthy, but guess what? You don't need the government telling you what you can and can't do. Let folks make their own decisions. Completely agree. Now walk me through, you've introduced two bills. We'll call them Bill 1 and Bill 2. Yep. Walk me through that, explain the difference, what people need to know. So bill number one is what we refer to. Well, I'll say it's actually, we'll talk about Senate Bill 116, let them play and let us watch. And I got that name actually from the Facebook page. Ms. O'Connell and everybody has started, and the feedback's been great on there. And here's the thing: I listen to people. I listen to them because guess what? I feel like if it's affecting me, it's going to be affecting everybody else too. And there's other people have to feel very similar. So I listen and I see these things. So that's where we got the name of the bill from. It's a statewide bill or a public bill, and what that means, it affects every county in the state. Now, if you read this bill, and I encourage everybody to read both bills because they are fundamentally different bills. The state bill or the public bill is very similar to the many reopen bills that we did in the short session last year, such as, opening bowling alleys, amusement parks, restaurants, et cetera, et cetera. And that's how that bill was patterned, because it really targets the health and the well-being of the community, et cetera. So that will be voted on, and that bill is subject to the veto pen. My hope is that with the groundswell of people, that the governor's office will see and understand the importance of this, of kids being able to play and folks being able to watch on these fields. So my hope is he doesn't veto that bill. So that bill, the state bill, is actually a 40% capacity bill, which if you look at Cuthbertson High School, I want to say that's probably in the 1,800 range of people that can come. It's still a 4,000 capacity. So you're still not where you really want to be and not where we want to be, but that still gives the local LEA, or in our case, Union County Public Schools, the ability to spread people out, socially distance, and, mask work. If mask works, let's let them work, keep people safe. And then, so that's really what that does in terms of in terms of the state bill. So it's subject to the veto pen. So that's something to keep in mind, but it does affect the entire state because, even though I represent Union County, when it comes to children and communities, I care about everybody in the state. I mean, because I know, like I said, other families are experiencing the same disgust, if you'll allow me to use that term, of what's going on. Bill number two, like I said, it's fundamentally a different bill. If you look in both bills, one thing you'll see in both bills, though, is a reference to the First Amendment, the right to assemble. And keep in mind, the government does not give us rights, Tripp. The government is supposed to, or the Constitution is supposed to protect our rights.
Right.
And so seeing over the last year, fundamental rights that were given to us, in my opinion, by God, that every single person has, and the Constitution is there to protect us. The Constitution has been trampled on. And it frustrates me to no end, and because that's our last line of defense as just citizens of this great country, is that Constitution has been trampled on. So that appears in both bills, but also the local bill that I filed, which is Senate Bill 115, and that one is Students, Parents, and Community Rights Act. This bill really doesn't address, or really isn't structured the same way as the many reopen bills. This is really focused around the rights that we have, the God-given rights that we have as parents and as students and as community members, to be assembled, to be able to go to a game and watch the game. And so it's a local bill, so therefore it can only affect up to 15 counties. It can't go beyond 15 counties in the state. So currently there's 7 counties that have signed on to this. Senator McGinnis, who represents Anson, Moore, Richmond, and Scotland County, and everybody, if you follow high school football, everybody knows Richmond County. That stadium holds 6,000 people, by the way. So, and that's a 50%. Senator Sawyer, who represents Iredell and Yadkin counties, both of those senators have worked closely with me on crafting that local bill. And so it will actually affect those 7 counties. And I've had folks reach out to me and say, hey, put my county in there. Hey, put my county in there. I can't do that. I have to depend on the senator, in our case, the senator that represents their county, to make that request to me and work with them to get them added to it. I would be remiss, Tripp, if I didn't say that the House, we have Representative David Willis and Representative Arp, Representative Brody here in our county, but Representative Willis has really been leading the charge from the House perspective. They're dropping a public bill today, or either today or Monday, they're dropping a public bill. And at the same time I dropped our local bill, they dropped the same local bill. Theirs just had Union County only, but they've been pushing on that side as well.
Key piece of that, it's not subject to the veto pen. So this local bills do not have to be signed by the governor. So, but again, it's a different bill, deals with the rights as opposed to just the occupancy piece of it.
So does that mean if the governor vetoed number one, but number two you got passed, that those counties that are on that bill would be able to operate with a number higher than 100, whereas myself in Mecklenburg County, I would be stuck at 100?
Yes and no. So in those 7 counties, that means that the local LEAs, so the Union County Public School Board, or say the Iredell County Schools and the Mooresville County Schools, because they have 2 systems up there, or the different school boards, it's an enabling legislation, which means that now the local school boards can choose to do this up to that percent. I have no reason to believe that Union County Public Schools, I'm not going to just drop a bill without talking, and that's what takes the time to development. Working with our local school board here, I can't speak on their behalf, but I'll put it to you this way. They were very excited about the bill we're filing. So
your county has been at the forefront of the entire pandemic.
But the unfortunate thing is this doesn't affect the our neighbors to the west or the northwest in Mecklenburg County. And what I tell people is call your senators, call your House members, tell them, plead with them if they'll take your call, because here's the part we got to remember, Tripp, elections have consequences.
Yes.
And so if the person that's representing you is not following what you're doing, next time elections come up every 2 years, get out there, put out yard signs, make calls, knock doors. And this isn't about an election or campaign or anything, but I'm just telling you that's how the system works. I have to represent my county.
Take 1 second here to let everyone know that hears this throughout the day. If you go to my website, southcharlottesports.com, one of my lead stories that I have up there is every Mecklenburg County Senator and House of Representatives phone number and email. That is posted on my website. And I'll just take the time to say this is not a D or an R issue. This
Absolutely.
And you cannot let anybody look at this as a D or an R issue. We're talking families here, and it doesn't matter what your registered party is. In your heart, you want to watch your child compete. So go to my website and find all that information. I've done the work for you.
And to your point, Tripp, you bring up a very good point. This is a nonpartisan, has nothing to do with the political world at all. I think we're all sick of politics. I mean, I'm done with the national and even the media politics and all that stuff. This is about families and communities and making common sense decisions. And here's the end. What I have said time and time again, during campaign season, you see political mailers all the time, or you hear interviews and they always talk about it's for the kids. It's all about the kids. Well, at some point in time, your actions have to reflect the kids. You can't just say it's for the kids and put a nice slogan on a mailer. You have to actually make decisions and lead with that in mind. And so the drive for me has truly been my 2 boys that, it's heartbreaking. And I would be remiss if I didn't say this, Tripp. It infuriates me that my son has to play basketball with a mask on, because at the end of the day, my son has now last week been diagnosed with exercise-induced asthma because of this stupid mask.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes no sense, folks. It makes no sense. Let these kids play. Let them play. Let the parents and the community members watch. Do away with these stupid masks while they're playing. If you ask any pediatrician, they're going to tell you that exercising with a mask on is not good for these kids. There's going to be long-lasting effects that we're going to learn 5 years from now that will show the fallacies of our ways by requiring these masks while students are playing.
And, one of the paths I've tried to avoid at times, all those times I've had to bring it out, we've already put everything in position for 400 people to go into the bowling alley right here near my house. Great Wolf Lodge is a fiasco up there with the number of people compared to what you could put inside of your high school gym last night. So all those things, it's just time to bring everything onto the same level and put that together. Now, let me ask you another question.
Sure.
People seem to, you quickly gravitate to football. This is about football. This is not just about football.
Nope.
There are a lot of sports that are getting ready to begin that are outside, and at some point we've got to address the inside sports as well, and I believe your bill does. But, I know how they can develop capacity numbers for football and things like that. there's a lot of sports, baseball, some other sports, softball, that are not inside of that, for lack of a better word, football stadium. I don't want to see something happen with percentage numbers where all of a sudden they end up with a mess on their hands, all their parents not being able to go. So how is something like that determined when you get to baseball and softball stadiums and stuff?
Well, and with that, Tripp, another thing to think about is cheerleading and band. You know, the band performances, and what you'll notice in both of these bills, it excludes entertainers, which I see as, you know, the band and the cheerleaders. It excludes them from the capacity piece of it. There's a lot of other sports with the capacity. My hope, I'll just tell you, I'll be very, very frank with you, Tripp, is my hope is that the governor sees the uprising and he sees the public support for this, and he sees these bills and what we're trying to do. And he could actually, with one stroke of the pen, at his meeting today, do exactly what we're talking about. It would save so much time. It would save efforts by the General Assembly. It would save a ton of what we're doing if by just one stroke of the pen, common sense returned. And so all of this has been delegated to the High School Athletic Association. They've been tasked with, I have an issue also with delegation of duties to a private organization with no oversight. And I think over the next 6 months, hopefully you're going to see some changes in those ranks too. I mean, it's easy to delegate, and that way you can say, "Oh, it's not me. You know, go talk to them or whatever." That's a cop out. We need real leadership in this state. We need folks that can make these hard decisions. And here's the thing, Tripp. I understand when I go to Walmart and there's 200 people walking around me, I understand I'm taking a risk.
Exactly.
But what I have done is, in my mind, I've weighed that risk versus me needing that loaf of bread or me wanting to go buy a tool at Lowe's. I've weighed those risks against each other. And I said, you know what? I think it's okay. I'm going to go buy that tool, or I'm going to go buy whatever I want to do, because I've weighed the risk. I like to think that the average person and most people have the common sense between the ears to make their own decisions. You don't need a government telling you what to do, how to do it, when to do it. And it's time to get the government out of people's lives to where they're we're running a nanny state is basically what this is. And something that I think gets missed in translation, Tripp, and I'm sorry again to be so excited and passionate about it, but it's really a big deal. There are 33 states. There are 33 states that have already had their football season. And guess what? Parents and community members and friends, guess what? They went to the games. Have you heard of these super spreader events? No. It's over 18% less likely to contract the disease outside. Come on, folks. I know there's ESPN. If you're a sports guy, so people watch the ESPN thing. Come on, man. I mean, this is that come on, man kind of moment right now.
I think you and I are coming from the same cloth here, without a doubt. It's I'm not trying to force anyone to do anything. I just want to have my goal is for folks to have the option, parents, families to have the option, if they would like, to go see their child participate in an inside athletic event. Home, away, neutral, does not matter. I am talking about sports in North Carolina. I'm talking about high school sports. I'm talking about your local little league is all that I'm talking about. It is as wrong as it can be for anyone to tell me, stay at home while your child plays. If they happen to get hurt or something happens, I'll give you a call. That is morally wrong, and it's time for a change.
Amen to that. And it's just unfortunate that it's taken so long for us to be able, last year was short session, this year is long session. What a lot of folks don't realize is there's actually only 60 days every other year that legislators can file bills. Now, I'll tell you, Tripp, I wish, well, I'll be reluctant to say that, but folks think that a legislator has all this power and all this authority just to do stuff. Really, we don't have that ability to do a lot of things. I mean, we are all of our quote unquote, and I hate to use the term power, rest as a corporate body. And so the other piece is everything we do other than local bills and a couple other things are subject to the veto pen. So what's been set up basically is a situation, and I think our founding fathers would be irate.
having a little bit of connection issues with Senator John.
Did I lose you? Are we back?
You're back. You're back. Go ahead. You're good.
What I was saying is, I think that there has been a complete manipulation of the statutes. Our emergency orders in the state of North Carolina were written and designed for natural disasters, hurricanes, tornadoes, events that happen in an area. It allows the executive branch to step in, calm the waters, figure it out, and then turn it back over to the local folks. Because in the end, I trust Union County people to make Union County decisions. And so the hope. Did I lose you again?
I still got you. You broke up a little bit, but you're okay.
Okay. I'm sorry. We got a lot of folks doing a lot of work here at the office. I guess they're eating up my bandwidth.
No, you're good. You're good. We've learned to deal with this over the last 11 months.
Sure.
One positive of the pandemic. We've all learned how to do this. So.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, and it's changed kind of the way folks think about a lot of things. I remember we were just debating Senate Bill 37, which was reopening schools, because at the end of the day, if people that haven't necessarily been paying attention says, why are you worried about sports? You need to be worried about education. Well, we did just pass Senate Bill 37 last week, which gets kids back in the classroom, which is first and foremost the number one priority we should all have beyond, before sports. And the other piece that a lot of folks miss is 1 week before that, we appropriated $1.6 billion. That's billion with a B. Dollars to our schools to be able to open safely, to be able to clean and have keep our teachers safe, keep our staff safe, keep the students safe. And so this is a progression that the General Assembly is going through in an effort to make kids the focal point. And if you look at the damage that's been done by having our kids trying to learn through a computer, I mean, we're having a hard enough time communicating through here. Could you imagine trying to learn a subject matter? Exactly. It's very difficult. And so this is part of a progression to get kids back in the classroom safely, protect the educators so they don't get sick, because they're going to be more at risk. But then now the next step, which is where we are now, is to get these kids back on the field and get the parents where they can come watch it. And it's not just about the parents. These kids love playing in front of their parents. Don't get me wrong. Parents love watching them, but they like playing in front of their peers, their community members. And that's why with this local bill, we wanted it to be about the rights that we have of assembling and being able to watch sports and enjoy community activities outside.
No, you're exactly right. And the things that I'm continuing to tell people, and just to make sure that you agree with this, I'm continuing to tell people, regardless of where you live in the state, contact your local senators and House of Representative members for North Carolina. This is not a national issue. You don't need to contact those guys. Continue to sign that petition. That petition that Megan O'Connell started 10, 11 days ago is at 42,000 people. For a petition, that's a very
She's a rock star, man.
No, she's been wonderful. She's been wonderful.
She's a rock star. She's pushing.
That's what, I just want people to realize this is an organic effort. This is complete organic effort. Continue to do that. Continue to advocate for children. If you are in the business that serves children and families, part of your job needs to be to advocate for the health and benefits and wellness of all children and families. And I've had that debate with a lot of people, and I'm proud of what I've done, and I need others to join me. So those are the kind of things that I'm pushing, and I think you would agree with all those, right?
I do agree, but I'd add one caveat to it, Tripp. When you're talking about that, make sure you define health. Make sure you define what healthy means. Yes. And as I said earlier, the definition of healthy is not the absence of COVID. You can't bake that down to such a simple thing. This is a holistic health, because you look, speaking with a pediatrician, it's been probably a month or so ago. She's been in the profession for 20-something years, and she said since the pandemic, she has prescribed more antidepressants to adolescents than she has in the prior 19 years combined. So health is not just about being, free of COVID. It's about mental and social, emotional, and even physical health. Going back to kind of what I said about my son developing asthma from these orders and these requirements. And so, as I said, if we're going to talk about Are you back?
Yeah, we're good.
Have we got you?
Yeah. No, but what you're saying is exactly right. And I would also add that the 4 or 5 different guidance counselors that I'm friends with have told me that their appointments, their talks are up 4 to 5 times over anything in the past. You got me? Coming in a little bit weak there, but let's give Todd a chance to come back to us. Well, let's give Todd, I know he'll sign right back in, and we'll finish up the conversation, and I'll pull him right back in. That's one of the problems with these conversations sometimes. Your wireless signal is just not fully ready. Let's see. I think he's coming back in right here. There he is. We got.
I need to pay my broadband bill or something.
No, it's but I was saying that guidance counselors have told me that their appointments are up 4 to 5 times as much in the past. I know enough, and I've had James Rachel from Dr. Rachel from Atrium on here, who's head of the psychiatric unit down there, and he's told me the incredible amount of workload that he's going through right now. And you're exactly right. We've got to find a way to combine staying safe with helping everyone in all aspects of their life. And this bills that you've introduced would do that. And I strongly encourage everyone to encourage their legislators to approve it. We'll sit back and wait and see what Governor Cooper comes up with his new executive order, and send a note to his office and to Mandy Cohen's office. And there's no sense in going negative in any of your discussions with these folks. List why this is important to you. These are all humans. It doesn't matter what side of the aisle they're on, and that's how we have to treat this issue.
Well, and Tripp, one thing you got to think too is different people, especially in government, have different lanes. And to give you an idea, DOT is focused solely on roads and road safety. That's all they're looking in with blinders on. That's their only goal. So when it comes to say, well, I need to be able to get to work faster. Well, they're not worried about that. They're worried on the safety of the roads. So you take Dr. Cohen, her goal is with blinders. What am I can I do to keep people safe, right, keep them, and she's been tasked with keeping them safe and what they've defined as without COVID. So I'm not, would never begin to try to defend or anything like that. What I'm saying is at least me as a legislator, I don't have the luxury of keeping my blinders on and looking at one thing. I have to look at the entirety of the community that I represent, and as I serve in the Senate, the entirety of the state, to see all of these different things. So I'm having to balance all these aspects, not just this one lane that I've been tasked with. So it's important that Dr. Cohen and DHHS and your specific legislators, they need to hear from you. They need to hear from you. And what I say is, don't just send an email. I get over 500 to 1,000 emails every single day. It's going to get lost in the mix. Pick up the phone and call them. Call their offices. Fill them up. Fill up their voicemails. Fill up their. And it's not like again, I think you brought up a good point. It's not about beating anybody up, because in their minds, they feel like they're doing what's best. Yeah. So we have to tell them, here's another side of the coin that you need to look at. And so treat it from a positive standpoint, and you'll catch a lot more flies with honey, for sure.
Exactly. There's no doubt. And a majority as well, and their children are involved in extracurricular activities, or if their children have already graduated, their favorite memories of their child probably has something to do with sports or other extracurricular activities. And that's right, where we're at. And it's, I tell you, I really appreciate your time. I appreciate every single thing you're doing, not just in this area, because I follow you and I've seen some of the other great work that you're doing. I know what you're going to do. And, the time may come where I attempt to join you in Raleigh one day, but it's certainly in my mind.
Come on, we'd love to have you.
Well, you just said that about 1,000 emails a day, scared me off just a little bit, but no.
Are you sure it wasn't $13,000 a year salary?
Going down the road, but you've got my full support on this. Anything you need from us, you let us know. And on behalf of Union County, Mecklenburg County, all 100 counties in this state, I'm a lifelong North Carolinian. We need more people like you, and I appreciate it. We all appreciate it.
Thanks a lot. I really appreciate it. Now, and anytime you want me to come back and chat a little bit, as you can see, talking is what I do. So, but you'll also see I take folks' input seriously, and I like to put it to use and put it to work. So, if I'll try to keep people updated on our social media outlets, and I try to keep folks updated on our newsletter. So feel free to
join or log in, however you want to do it, and stay informed. We're going to try to keep people updated as we go down this process. And as I told you earlier, I think there's a number of things to pay attention to over the next 6 months to 8 months that involve high school athletics, because this is just the start of something that we have to address these things that we're being faced with. These are not new issues. Sure, this is this is a specific issue, but I think it goes to a greater issue that we're having in high school sports that I hope to get addressed this year.
I'll be right there with you. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope you have a nice weekend.
Have a great one. See you.
Thanks for joining us. That was Todd Johnson joined us today, Senator Johnson from Union County. We do appreciate it, and thank you so much for listening. And anything you ever need from me, let me know, and be sure to follow me on Twitter at SC Sports Report. Thanks, and have a great day.